verse 9. Loving the divine power of the universe. However, we must be on our guard not to wander from the correct use of it. When people devote themselves wholeheartedly to their perishable coffers, this energy in their heart is called greed. When they constantly worry about defending their possessions, believing them to be the center of their life, wherever they are, this same energy becomes selfishness. When they only see reason to praise what they themselves represent, do and feel, with obviously disregard of other people's values, the sentiment that predominates is called envy. Paul, writing to the loving Philippine community, formulated a far-reaching suggestion. He wishes it is that love may grow more and more in knowledge and discernment, and that the disciple may be able to tell what is best. Therefore, let us learn in order to know. Let us teach ourselves to discern. Intellectual learning and moral growth are imperatives for life, enabling us to show love in the realm of sublimation that brings us closer to God. Let us heed the apostolic advice and grow in spiritual qualities for everlasting life, because many times our love simply means wanting, and wanting by itself can thoughtlessly destroy life's most beautiful situations. Let us pray. Dear Father, today we thank you for the opportunity of talking about love, of hearing about love, and touching each other's heart with love. We kindly ask you, Father, please enlighten all the living beings, in especial the community who allows this house to exist. Enlighten all the souls who wanted to be today here, and because of any reason weren't able. Let they feel the love and the gratitude for this house we are, and for this house we will be. Let us also, Father, connect to our inner soul, our inner intelligence, seeking for the true love, seeking to find self-love. May today be a bliss in our existence, and we always remember that love is imperishable. So be it. Fairly well. which there are more people watching through the internet than here with us today, but I understand that not everybody likes to drive on 20 centimeters of snow. So we respect that and also ask everybody to be safe, right? That's why this is not a course, it's a public meeting. We'd like to talk a little bit today about Jesus' invitation to love, which is based in the Gospel of Matthew. And we will talk a little bit on the Spirit's book, the Love, Unbeatable Love book from Divaldo Franco and Joanna de Angelis, and the Integral Man by also Divaldo Franco with Spirit Joanna de Angelis. But to start, I would like to remember a story that once I heard and always inspired me a little bit when we talk about love. Tell the story that once there was an island, and the fellows who lived in that island weren't fellows that we are usual to deal with or see them, but they were virtues, the sentiments, the island of sentiments. And in this island, as everything that lives in this earthly world, we had, there was actually a time that transformation. Good morning. Sorry, welcome.
Late.
No, that's no problem. We just started. So in this island, that the island of the sentiments, there would be a time of transformation. And in this transformation, everyone who lived in the island knew about that transformation would come, and of advice would be aware to everybody. Everybody would know about this time of transformation. And as the time came, the alarms rang, but then we saw one of the feelings, the feeling of love, trying to help others to get away from the island because the island would be flooded. And in the flood, love started passing from house to house. And then there was one sentiment that was the fear. Fear was trying to get hidden inside the house. But as love came, the fear understood it was time to go and let follow love. As love continued to knock on the doors, it knocked on the door of laziness. And then love asked, what are you doing here? Didn't you hear the ring, the bell? It's time to go. But laziness said, oh, just a little bit more time. There is still always time. The love insisted and the laziness went through. And as the island was sinking, love was lost in the middle of the ocean now, because it was trying to save everyone, but nobody really came for him. But a big sister of love came about and called, don't lose faith, I'm here for you. And then love felt a hand touching him and bringing him out of the water and bringing him to a safe shore. And as he find out he was sleeping after that hand touched him. And as he woke up, he saw that sister going in a little boat away. And there was a man full of knowledge nearby, full of wisdom. And love asked, who was that who touched me, who helped me when everybody was gone? Who was that one who came back and helped me? And tell the story that the sir answered, it was your biggest sister, the gratitude. So this story means a lot for us, because as we find love, gratitude comes with it. Love is always serene. Love is always light. Love is always happy. And we say this because sometimes we try to understand what is love and the meaning of love for Jesus. Today I had one of the most beautiful feelings that I had ever had in here. As I was sitting today, we usually have the muse, which is music for the Spiritist education for the kids. But Bruno is the main guide of this work, but because of snow and they were a little bit late, they decided not to come. And I was with just my two kids here. And we were sitting down hearing probably a music that you guys were in the other room heard. And then as I saw my daughter coming to sing with me, she had drawn this. I didn't ask her to draw this, but she started drawing the whole family, a heart, writing. She just learned about how to write. The family, the FSS family is not just our family, but everybody. And then I found that all the effort, all the work that we're putting in here, there is a result. There is a wonderful result. When does a child, 7 years old, will start writing about love, or could be writing about ponies that she loves? She would be like the talking about the dolls that she had, but she decided to talk about love. And then as we were singing that music, and the music is more or less like this: love one another, love one another as Jesus loves you. She was singing like inspired, and I know it's not the first time that she hears the music. We played this music many times in the kids' Spiritist education, but that touched her and she likes it. And I feel a little bit, all my imperfection, trying to answer one of Jesus' most beautiful invitation. When he asked for the little ones, let the little ones come to me. And I felt, it's not complete yet. There is a long journey, so she's just 7, but she's finding Jesus. And this is very beautiful, because our meeting today is all about reflecting about these invitations of Jesus. All these wonderful invitations that we received 2,000 years ago and still struggle to say yes. I will deny myself and I will live for the most beautiful message that he brought, which is love. For that, I would like to invite you to reflect about this. And reflect in deep. We don't need to externalize here answering the question, but answer the question for yourself. Do you see Jesus as your real master of love? Can you find love in Jesus' teachings? Does it fulfill your heart? How do you understand this commandment? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and the greatest commandment. And the second, is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. How do you understand this? How does it touch you? Is there any specific or the whole commandment touches? Do you love yourself? Do you love your neighbor as yourself? Well, with those reflections, I would like to bring them now fully in the passage that Jesus taught us about how to love God and love our neighbor as ourselves. As Jesus was preaching in front of the Pharisee, one who was trying to experiment him, to try to see what would be his answer, so then he could send him to jail, condemn him, depending on the answer. He asked, knowing what would be the right answer as for the Jewish people during that time, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in law?" And just to remind you, what is the first commandment of Moses' law again? Do you guys remember? Respect the name of your Lord above everything. Love God above everything. So the answer starts like this. Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God," but then he added 3 aspects here. With all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and the greatest. So was Jesus denying the 10 commandments? No, opposite. He was fulfilling. Because this is the first and the greatest. And he complemented it. He added on it, saying, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And the second, he took all the other 9 and put it together in just one. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these 2 commandments. So, you take from a people who was used to live the 10 commandments, although in their own way, because at the same time that in the law of God that came from Moses said, for example, don't kill, they would still be killing. Well, they killed the man who said this. So were they fulfilling Moses' laws? I don't think so. But when he takes all these other 9 commandments out and say, after loving God, practice love with yourself and with the ones that surround you. Joanna de Angelis tells us love cannot be imposed, but developed, trained, when it doesn't arise spontaneously. The synthesis proposed by Jesus about love is one of the most beautiful psychotherapies known. Love God above all things and neighbor as himself is an harmonious triology. I would like to highlight one important word here: psychotherapy. Why is Joanna talking about? We are not very usual to say this in the Spiritist movement or in Spiritism, psychotherapy. This is not something that we usually do. This is on the realm of science, specifically psychology. But what we do here really, sitting down, hearing Jesus' teachings, reflecting about it, put my feelings to compare with Jesus' feelings, is a process of self-knowledge, self-development, self-help. Because I am seeking for help, and if I understand what the question 626 of the Spirit's book says, when expose to us that Jesus is the model and guide to all humankind, that includes me, I will stop and think. Am I trying to copy Jesus? Am I trying to copy Jesus? Is Jesus to be copied, first of all?
I think he's to be inspired. He's an inspiration.
If he's a model, we try to model ourselves instead of copy. Because copying is a process of exterior representation. But as I model myself, I conform all myself in it. And I follow it because it's a guide. So, this is very important. The process of modeling ourselves is a deep state of psychotherapy. And as Joanna says here, this process is fully connected with this harmonious triology. Given then the impossibility of man loving God in its fullness, since he has difficulty in conceiving the absolute, he performs the essential reversing of the order of teaching, loving himself at first, in order to develop abilities that sleep in himself in latency. What does it mean? This ability lives with me, but is in sleep mode.
Because we have the capacity to do this, but we just don't know it. Or we have the seed within us.
Where are the divine laws written again? In our conscious. So if I have the divine laws in myself, I have already the seeds there. But the seeds can be germinated or can be just stored there for years. There are some seeds, wheat seeds, that were found a few years ago that they have millions, I won't say millions, but thousands of years. And they germinated, even thousands of years later. If we conceive that even though we are probably millions of years old spirits, we still have this in ourselves. And just depends on us to germinate. The other day, I think it was Renzo talking about an important fertilizer for this. Right? When we are gardening, we do need fertilizer. And depending on what we are trying to cultivate there, we require fertilizer in the soil.
Good soil as well.
Yeah, good soil. And then how you transform a bad soil in a good soil? Right? So I will prepare that soil with a good fertilizer. And what would be the fertilizers for our hearts?
Sometimes you just throw the seed on the rocks, it won't grow. So that's why I'm trying to make it.
It will grow, but does it will grow
die.
deep? It will die, right? It might germinate, but right? So what we need to do to remove the stones, to fertilize and prepare everything, is really to find where are my rocks? What kind of fertilizers most help to bloom the flowers in my heart? And one beautiful that touched me personally is Spiritism. Spiritism with the gospel of Jesus can really touch so deep our heart. Our hearts that are fully sometimes in darkness, as I read the text before, selfishness, pride, greediness, but we still have all these seeds in latency in ourselves. And as John invites us, striving by acquiring enlightenment values, every moment growing in the direction of love to neighbor, a natural consequence of self-love, since the other is an extension of myself, to finally love God in an incomparable transcendence, in which love predominates in all emotions and is responsible for all acts. So basically what our dear Joanna is saying, if I really truly want to love God, if I really and truly want to love my neighbor, I do need to start by myself. Because if my glass is not full of water, if I am still striving, if I am still in hunger of love, how can I give love to others? It's hard. It's hard. But as a superior spirit, Joanna is not telling us something just for admire. She is telling us from her own experience. Who was this spirit who tells us today to change the order of a Jesus teaching? Because Jesus doesn't say love yourself, then love your neighbor, then love God. He said first love God, then your neighbors as yourself. Well, this lady was the one who 2,000 years ago was touched by Jesus, understanding that fully finding love in her heart during that presence of him in her life could relieve her from even the attachment to her material body and from her own son material body, understanding that life is passage. And if the Romans and the Jewish want to burn the body, she would still transcend. And then later on, this lady returns as Clara of Assisi, together with Francis, bringing one of the most beautiful teachings of love and simplicity. We don't need to do all fancy things to love God. We can love God in the middle of the nature. We can love God taking care of the sick people, as she did. Later on, returning as Joanna De Angelis and other incarnations. So, yeah, she has really something to tell us. And as we understand this triad of love from all heart, all knowledge, and all soul, does this apply to myself? Do I fully know myself? Do I really feel myself? Or I still prefer ignorance about my feelings that don't help me? I still, when love comes, knock my door, I am still afraid of it, and I don't open the door. Or when the love knocks on our door, our laziness says, tomorrow. And as I see love sinking after helping everybody, I come back there, and with all gratitude, I rescue when love is perishing in my life. Because love will never perish. Love is imperishable. And even though I feel that there is no love in my life right now, the seed is still there, always gonna be there. So many will ask, Eric, isn't self-love narcissism? No. Narcissism is a vice. Self-love is a virtue. Self-love is nothing to do with how I see the exterior world, but how I really love this wonderful present that God gave me. This material body, this immortal spirit that I am. But Jesus gave us a wonderful tip, a wonderful clue how to exercise self-love. When he says to his disciples, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. When we say become a Jesus disciple, we have really to understand fully this. Because if Jesus is the most beautiful message of love of all times, is he claiming us to be disciples of the flesh and bone Jesus, or his message? If his message is love, isn't he calling us, claiming us to be? That's all right.
I'm going to the bathroom.
You're very welcome to use the bathroom. And being disciples then of what? He's inviting us. Disciples of love. Because denying ourselves, that's really an act of love. That's letting go narcissism, for example, to love what really matters. Take our crosses. Take our crosses. It's hard work. It's not just a matter of coming here and repeating words and finding that's beautiful, this teaching. I will take my cross one day, but what is this cross? If we connect this cross to what that little tale that I told you in the beginning of the meeting today about love, trying to help each one, love trying to be proactive, well, then we will figure out that the cross that love brings to our hearts is to make efforts to love ourselves, to understand ourselves, to fight in a good manner, please, not to fight against my pride or my selfishness, but a healthy fight that will make myself understand, take what is have to be done and do it, work, not just let the cross there on top of the mountain, unreachable, but take up the cross. Don't let it there just to think that's something that will save me one day, but I am the owner of my own salvation. And follow me. Follow love. Whenever we see love happening, why sometimes we have opportunities so beautiful in front of us, people inviting us of acts of love, people inviting us to love them, our kids, our family, our friends, our brothers and sisters in the Spiritist centers, our colleagues at work, we still deny to follow love because my eyes are still blind to really see the love in those invitations. So, yes, it's a wonderful opportunity of developing self-love, denying ourselves, taking our crosses, and following love. It's hard sometimes in a world that invites us for so much pleasures, or temporary livings that will all be perishable. And at some time I won't be feeling euphoria or this fake happiness, and I will be still trying to find where is love. And I can find love in our neighbor. When Jesus told us, as you enter the home, give it your greeting. If the home is deserving, let the peace rest on it. And if it's not, let your peace return to you. What an invitation. When we offer our love to others, is it always received? Do we always receive love from others? But sometimes we do, right? When it does, let our love rest with the home, the kingdom of God of the other people, of the other person that I'm trying to love, but the door is closed now. But what if the door is open? Let's leave, let the peace of love rest in it.
How do you reopen the door? Or we can't?
We can't, because that's what we call free will. If the other one doesn't want to open the door, we don't have the duty and the right to open the door. We have to respect, as we want our doors to be respected as well. So that's why he says and compliments, if the door is not open, take your peace, return to you. Don't try to force, don't try to struggle, to force love being there, if it's not yet. If I knock at the door and I found laziness, if I knock the door and I found greedy, if I found angerness, why am I trying to force the door? Is it a loving act? I would like to do an exercise with you, if you don't mind. And you are invited to do or not, feel free. Let's do this. Let's close our eyes. Imagine someone that you really love. Focus your thoughts on that person. And start remembering the most important virtue of this person for you. Yes, remember that virtue, the good things you have seen that person doing. How lovely was that? Now, let's try to do this to ourselves. See yourself. Start remembering the good things that you do, the virtuous things that you have done, and start seeing that most beautiful virtue that comes from your acts. Embrace yourself, embrace this wonderful virtue that you already have. Believe in yourself. Okay. What was easier? Let's return now. What was easier? To see the virtue of that person that you loves, or to see yourself?
First,
To see on others, right?
myself, my point of view. It's basically.
It's usually really hard to see ourselves and to love ourselves, admiring things that we do. Again, not trying to push that narcissism, oh, I do have this, I am really good. But on the other hand, seeing, yes, I do have good feelings. I do have good things. And isn't it wonderful when I look at someone that I do love and see wonderful things that that person also does. And as we start focusing our thoughts in this, in my actions and the other people's actions, what am I trying to follow? I'm trying to follow love. I'm trying to follow the biggest and most important, the major law, as Allan Kardec and the Spirits put in the book, Spirit's book. Because love, as Paul said, is what really transforms us. Love is the only living power that can light any of our vices, any of our bad tendencies, any of our ego vices.
So, example, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's my opinion, before you love Jesus or love God, you need, like, have faith. You know what I mean? That's my point of view. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have a faith in God, or if you don't have a faith in Jesus, why are you going to love Him? So you have to first exercise the faith, and then the love is a consequence. That's my point of view. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
No, it's not about being right or wrong. You're absolutely
Maybe the
right.
process, you know what I mean?
But it's not what we need to understand as well.
Because for most of people, people think God is like a person. He's not a person. That's my point.
It's not. It's very clear in this book.
Yes,
the
but
Genesini.
for some people, they don't have that kind of
And we respect that
Yes,
they
that's
don't,
why.
right?
Like,
We
I
respect.
have a lot of friends of different religions and
Mhm.
beliefs, and that's why we always have some kind of disagreement. But like I said, I respect. But I mean, if you don't have a faith, how are you gonna love something if you don't really? You know what I mean? So that's the thing.
You see, Manuel, that's the difference that Spiritism brings us a potential. That doesn't mean that with my current limitations, maybe not reaching, but it opens our minds that first. It's not loving Jesus as the figure or the God as a man who is almighty power, but love the message, love the teaching, love that understanding what he was trying to tell us. And as we understand that his message really was love, I'm starting to exercise already love. Because I am not anymore loving as I love my car, for example, or as I love my house or any material thing, but now I am loving a concept. And this concept is attached to divine laws.
Because you have a faith in Jesus. You believe in Him.
And why this is so important? Because the process of developing love exercise your faith as well.
That's
So
why my point of view, the faith comes
it's-
first, and then the love is a
doesn't
consequence.
necessarily need to come first. It's a
I-
easier virtue to develop.
Mhm.
It's not a easy. See,
Faith
it's
is
not
complicated.
it's not an easy virtue to develop, but it's easier than love because love, as I said, is a major law. So that's connect everything. But what we really need to understand is all these concepts that we're talking about here, they are just a didactical way to understand the divinity that surrounds me. Because we are trying to divide faith, love, but everything is connected.
Yes, it is correct.
It's impossible to me develop just faith without
No.
developing love, and vice versa. So, yes, to fulfill completely love, probably I will have to be more fulfilled in faith, but doesn't mean as I fulfill love, I won't be fulfilling faith and vice versa. So it's only fully connected. And the important thing in my perception on this is a continuous process. And as I start loving the process of developing the virtues, the burden is lightened. I take the cross and I will be loving, I will feel gratitude. That's why our little story today finished as the boat, as the island was sinking and love was losing faith, came one big sister of him, and the gratitude in being, in doing all that love did, saving all the other sentiments, helping them to leave the island that was fleeting.
Because
Love was
In
still grateful to be
in my
doing
point,
this.
blessed you, all the Jesus disciples, they are following Jesus because they believe, they have a lot of faith in Jesus.
Mhm.
You know, that's the love that was a consequence for that. And that's why
Yes.
my trying to
Correct. But you always have to remind that even though they had a fully connection with him, they saw him doing the miracles or the healings and etc. Peter, who was one of the closest one, denied him 3 times. None of them stayed him till the last minute. Very little were there when they were hanging them on the cross. Just one really exposing himself in front of everybody. It was John with Mary. The rest was trying to hide. So, did they really have faith?
Yes.
It was a proof of
Maybe they
faith.
get scared.
But later on, as
Maybe they
he
got scared.
returns,
They got a fear, you know, that's the thing.
remember the story again? When the love knocks the door, fear doesn't even open the door, afraid who is outside. Remember the other one, the laziness? Love's knocked the doors. Okay, not today, tomorrow I will do. So it's a living process of developing ourselves for sure. But we have to take this cross and work, because I might be lazy and not take my cross and leave the process of developing love, because sometimes it will hurt, as we just saw. Loving the neighbor, sometimes the door is closed, or they shut the door in our face, and that really hurts. But take your peace back to you, because you are doing something loving to the next, and if it's a set, let the peace rest in there. Just to finalize, and then it will also connect to what we were doing. Look what how John finalizes that text. Jesus, the excellent psychotherapist, in suggesting love of neighbor as yourself after love God as the most important achievement of man calls him to love, calls people to love, to value himself, to know himself. And when we're saying him here is the person, or we can say oneself. Calls one to love, to value oneself, to know oneself in order to fulfill, in order to be filled with what is and has, multiplying these resources in implements of eternal life, in healthy companion, without the concern of receiving an equivalent response. The man of solidarity is never lonely. The egoist, on the other hand, is never solicitous, therefore always tormented. This is a process. And developing faith is a process of love. Developing patience is a process of love. Developing serenity is a process of love. And guess what? Serenity is a beautiful virtue that we just develop it in ourselves first. And as I improve my serenity, reduce my anxiety, who will be benefited? Just myself? Everyone who lives with me will be more serene. Why? Because I won't be pushing people to the streams. I will be accepting that everybody has limitations. I have limitations, someone else has limitations, my brother, my sister, my son, my daughter, my father. Everyone has limitations, but is the person the limitation? Is that limitation what the person really is? No. The person is just at this time having actions that way. And I still can love him or her, even though, as Jesus said, if someone beats you on one side of the face, give the other one. And this is not an act of passiveness. This is a full act of love. I won't hate you, I won't respond, but I am still here. And if you want to hit me again, that's your choice, not mine. I hope we had inspired a little bit of living this virtue. It's not an easy one, as I said, but it's the most fortunate one. The one that really helps us to feel happier as we find love. Thank you very much. I don't know if the kids have the banner or the poster. They're a little bit past here. Does it make more sense? A little bit? But I do agree with you, faith. Without faith that I can love, right? I have faith that I am able, I can. Right? Alright, so we can go for our final prayer then. Let us connect to our guardian angel here now. Call him or her this wonderful Spirit who has been fallen in you and every one of our brothers and sisters. To help our daily life, to exercise love, to know love, to feel love, to live love. Dear Father, we thank you for this wonderful teaching that Jesus left us. We thank you for the opportunity of learning about self-love, learning how important it is to love ourselves and extend this to our neighbors, and consequently love all creation, love you, Father, in this sublime connection. We ask you kindly, please enlighten our brothers and sisters who are in need. Please enlighten ourselves, giving us the strength to carry our own crosses. And we ask you, Father, may this house, today and always, be a home of love. So everybody who here enters feels embraced by love and invited to act in love. Be with us, Father, today and always. So be